Sleeping with the enemy inside my head. Oh, they handed me a folded flag. People clapped. Someone even called me a hero. I smiled politely. I said thank you. I nodded when they said, "Welcome home." But I wasn't home. Home was a place I remembered, not something I returned to. My body crossed borders, sure, but my mind. It stayed in a humid tent somewhere in Quang Tri. It lingered at checkpoints, in foxholes, in whispers from the tree line. Coming home wasn't coming back. It was more like arriving somewhere unfamiliar with a face everyone thought they still knew. My war didn't end with peace treaties. It began again in silence, in the space between the ticking of a kitchen clock and the slamming of a car door. That's the thing they don't tell you. The enemy doesn't always stay behind. Sometimes it comes home with you. Sometimes it moves into your dreams. They say the war ended. I signed a paper. I boarded a plane. I stepped onto American soil again. That's supposed to be it, right? But it never really left. Not for me. Every night, I fall asleep in peacetime and wake up in war. I dream in jungle green, in flashes, in voices I haven't heard in decades. I hear my name shouted through smoke. I see faces that aren't alive anymore. I smell metal, dirt, blood, and I can't turn it off. My wife once reached for me in the dark, and I flinched so hard she cried. She asked, "Who are you fighting in your sleep?" I didn't know how to answer. Because some nights, it's the war. Other nights, it's myself. I tried therapy. I tried silence. I tried pretending I'm fine. But the war doesn't knock before coming in. It sits at the end of my bed like a shadow I can't shake. I don't talk about it much. People want heroes, not men who cry at fireworks. The worst part? I miss it sometimes. Not the killing. God. Not that. But the clarity. In war, everything made sense. You ran. You fought. You survived. Out here, everything's noise. Bills. Politics. Fake smiles. No one warns you how loud life gets after silence. My kids don't know who I used to be. My wife remembers who I was before I left, not who I am now. And me, I'm stuck somewhere in between. So I write. I talk to God. I sit on the porch and breathe. Some days it helps. Some nights it doesn't. I sleep next to my family and across from ghosts. The first time I tried to explain this to a friend, he laughed. Not to be mean, just uncomfortable. "You're home now," he said. Yes, I am, but not all of me. The part that writes checks and makes coffee? Sure. But the part that watches shadows move across walls? That never left the jungle. Sometimes I wonder if I ever will. I've learned to live with the noise in my head, but that doesn't mean I've made peace with it. I still check under the bed. I still hate crowded grocery stores. I still sit near exits, never with my back to the door. I'm not broken. I'm just wired differently now. If I could say one thing to people listening, to the kids who wonder why their dad seems distant, to the wives who reach for hands that flinch, to the veterans who sit in silence because no one ever asks the right question. You are not alone. And the enemy? It's not always out there. Sometimes, it's just the part of us that remembers too well. That's what I sleep with. Every night. When the fireworks trigger fear. The smell of grilled burgers, laughter in the backyard, kids running with sparklers. The kind of evening most people look forward to all year, but not me. I stood at the edge of the yard pretending to sip from a soda can, my eyes scanning the sky. Every pop, every crackle of a firework made my spine tighten. I smiled when someone looked at me. I laughed when they joked. But inside, I was somewhere else. Somewhere hot, somewhere loud, somewhere where light in the sky didn't mean celebration. I've been back for decades now, but fireworks still bring me back in seconds. And it's not just the sound, it's the way it echoes, the way it thuds in your chest, the sudden flashes of light, the delay before the boom, that beat of silence. It's exactly like the moment before incoming. You don't forget that rhythm. Your body remembers it even if your mind tries to forget. My wife once said, "You know it's just fireworks." And I said, "Yeah, but my body doesn't." One firework burst overhead, red and loud, and I flinched. My hands clenched around the soda can so tight I crushed it. My daughter laughed. "Dad, it's just the finale." She yelled over the noise. Finale. Yeah, that's one word for it. My finale was a night like this. Rain, mud, a new guy on patrol who didn't know the sound of a tripwire until it was too late. The flash was bright, the ground shook, and my ears rang for days. Back then, you didn't scream, you didn't cry, you didn't stop. You moved, you covered, you pulled what was left of someone back behind you and kept breathing, barely. I didn't tell my daughter any of that. What would be the point? She thinks I'm the quiet dad who grills steaks and doesn't like loud parties, not the guy who learned how to disassemble a rifle in the dark before he learned to shave. The thing is, she's not wrong. That man, the one I was over there, he never came home. I left him in the mud somewhere. What came back was a shell. Not empty, just full of too many things no one wants to hear. So I watched the fireworks explode in 1,000 directions, and I nodded when people said, "Beautiful, huh?" Yeah, beautiful. Later that night, after the last spark fizzled out and the kids were chasing fireflies, my wife found me sitting on the porch, staring at nothing. She sat beside me in silence. We didn't need words right away. Then she asked, gently, "Was it bad tonight?" I didn't look at her. I just nodded. She squeezed my hand. "You were there again, weren't you?" "Yeah," I said. "Still am, some days." And that was enough. Sometimes, the greatest kindness isn't in fixing the broken. It's in sitting beside the wreckage and not looking away. It's been decades since I left the jungle, but my war has never had a proper ending. Fireworks remind me, not of freedom or celebration, but of survival, of chaos, of memory. And yet, I stay. I breathe through the noise. I keep going. Because now I know, the enemy is no longer out there. It's the echo inside me. But I'm learning not to fear it, not to fight it, just to live with it. And in that, maybe I'm finally finding peace. Letters I never sent. They say writing is a way to heal. But what if the things you needed to say were never meant to be read? I wrote dozens of letters during my time in Vietnam. Most never made it past my pocket. Some I folded and hid beneath my helmet liner. Some stayed in the pages of a rain-soaked journal I couldn't bring myself to burn. They were never sent, and maybe that's why they stayed honest. Dear Mom, today we lost another guy. I won't write his name because it'll make it too real. We're told not to get too close, but it's hard not to when you share everything. Food, fire, fear, I miss your voice, the way you used to hum while cooking. I try to remember it at night when the only sound is the wind and whatever's out there watching. Dear Emily, if I told you everything, you'd never sleep again. So I lie. I say I'm safe. I say it's quiet. But last night, mortars fell so close the dirt in my teeth tasted like blood. I keep your photo in my breast pocket. I talk to it sometimes. I imagine your voice and pretend this tent is your porch swing. It helps. A little. Dear Dad, you never talked about your war. I used to think it meant you had nothing to say. Now I understand. It means you had too much. I get it now. I'm sorry I didn't before. If I make it out of this, maybe we can sit in silence and finally understand each other. Some letters were to people who would never get them. Dear Billy, you were 2 steps ahead of me when it happened. I yelled, but not fast enough. I still see your boot print in the mud sometimes. I still remember your jokes. The way you always carried extra rations just to share. I'm sorry I couldn't carry you home. Dear me, this one's the hardest. You're scared. That's okay. You keep pretending you're not. But it's okay to be afraid. You won't come back the same. You already know that. But don't let the broken pieces scare you. They mean you felt something. They mean you survived. I kept these letters because they held parts of me I couldn't say out loud. They were confessions, prayers, and promises written in dirt and ink. Coming home, I found them in a box at the bottom of my duffel. I thought about burning them, letting the smoke carry the words to where they were supposed to go. But I couldn't. Not yet. Some nights, when sleep won't come, I read them. I read the boy I was, the man I tried to be, the ghosts I carry. And sometimes I write new ones. Dear son, you're too young to understand why I flinch at thunder, or why I stare too long at the horizon. But one day, when you ask, I'll show you these letters, not to scare you, but to show you what it costs to survive something you can never fully leave behind. Not all letters need postage. Some are meant to be whispered or remembered, and some, like these, were never sent because the act of writing them was the message itself. Maybe someday, someone will find these words, tucked in a box, weathered by time, but still breathing with memory. Maybe they'll understand what we never learned to say out loud, and maybe they'll write their own letters too, not to send, but to remember, because healing doesn't always look like answers. Sometimes, it looks like finally speaking, even if only to yourself.